Anthony Landry, I can see you up on the screen. If you can hear me clearly, you have the floor. Introduce yourself for the record and share us your thoughts.
Well, thank you, Chairman Flaherty. Thank you, Councilor Coletta, Murphy, Councilor Breeden, and welcome to Councilor Durkin. Thank you all for your time today, and thank you to Gigi for reaching out to me yesterday to offer some information here. First of all, my name is Anthony Landry. I'm Political Director of SEIU 888, which represents nearly 2,000 workers in the city of Boston. In particular, one place is very close to my heart because I worked there for nearly 2 decades is the Boston Police Operations 911 Division. I came over to be Political Director last year after working 19 of my 21 years at the Boston Police Department as a civilian first responder. I'm also the Director and Coordinator of the Commonwealth 911 Peer Support Team, which provides crisis intervention services to 911 civilian personnel, not only in Boston, but now across the state because the demand for this is so high. And I'm also proud to say that I'm on the Board of Directors for the Mass State Peer Support Network. I've been hearing quite a few of you mention the crisis in Boston 911, and I really appreciate you folks taking the time to do that. We are dealing with a beyond haggard group of people up there. We're still at a point where we're not getting enough people in. Just that's the bottom line. So last year, we had an opportunity to come to a class and compensation agreement with the city of Boston in August of 2022, where we were able to come to to help stop the hemorrhaging in the division, an agreement. We were able to get job reclassifications, things that hadn't been changed since the 90s, brought up to 2023 language and standing, including many pay scale raises for the people there to incentivize it to keep them in the chairs. But I think that a key component going forward here is utilizing the mission critical audit, which I believe many of you are familiar with, and I supplied today via email so you could take a look at it again. In that, it documented the 35,000 missed calls by Boston Emergency Services at our 911 division. And the audit also provides the city with a clear pathway towards rectifying the situation in the division by creating career ladders for the civilian workers, because currently the managerial roles there are not in the best practices of the nation, which the audit covered. It currently has captains, lieutenants, and sergeants in the division overseeing the civilian staff. So given the light of police shortages, it would be a natural segue to handle 2 things. To be able to create a career ladder for the civilians in operations, the people that have been there long enough to move on up in their positions of expertise, and have the officers in the field where they're needed. Apparently, part of that class and compensation as well last year, many of the components of that have not been fulfilled yet. One of it is the multilingual employees. We were trying to reward them for, instead of using the language line, which we've utilized for people who speak other languages other than English, we've utilized that to help with translation services for people in need. But what that does create is a time gap, which could increase the time from 90 seconds to sometimes 5-6 minutes. So with the city and the class and compensation agreement to incentivize it for employees of a diverse background, we came up with a multilingual stipend. And it has been over a year, and we have not heard a single thing back in regards to that. So if we're still talking about what we need to get right in 2022, I think that that's going to help propel us to anticipate what we're going to need 10 years from now, which is the point of the discussion today. Part of that agreement, we'd also like to thank Mayor Wu for signing the executive order recognizing Boston 911 emergency telecommunicators as public safety first responders. This recognition is more than just ceremonial. It shows that there is starting to be a true understanding of the evolution of the job and the changes in duties. It's an awareness that we need to bring these classifications into the 21st century and reward these personnel to help them with resources that they need to get through to the next shift, which we all know the next shift could be immediately following their first right now. One of the other things was we're not able to reach the 85% staffing right now. we had a 3-year residency waiver in place for these personnel that if they hit the 85% mark of staffing, what Chairperson Flaherty mentioned for the 4 and 2 schedule, that would kick in. But right now we're at a point where we're not there yet. So as of yesterday in the operations division, we only have 31 out of 40 dispatcher positions filled with full-time workers right now. That's a 22.5% vacancy. For the call taker side, we have 47 out of 65 call taker positions filled right now. However, this is an issue we're running into and we've run into for years. 6 of those are currently in the process to join the Boston Police Department as a sworn officer. So it continues the cycle of training someone for 6 months. You have the recruitment, the hiring process, the training, and then you have to bring in a trainer to train them. And if you put all of the money together on this, the department is hemorrhaging money. And by the time that they're out after 6 months, they're getting the card to go in the academy and go through a process again. So we need to figure out a way collaboratively to figure out how do we keep the people in these chairs. And also these numbers that I gave to you don't demonstrate those out on medical leave, vacations, military leave, etc. We at Local 888 have been trying everything we can to help change that situation in the operations division, trying to work collaboratively with the city and the Boston Police Department to try to identify the issues and the mechanisms to remedy them. We not only represent 911 employees in Boston, but we also proudly represent 911 personnel across the Commonwealth. What we did, we heard a news report recently that residency is not a factor in the staffing issues. So we took it upon ourselves to create a survey and send out to our 911 dispatchers across the state outside of Boston. And we just did it last Tuesday. So we already have 40 responses back that have touched upon a diverse base of well-experienced candidates. I supplied a copy of that to you as well. And what we found was that these numbers have demonstrated that we could fill every vacant position in Boston 911 with experienced, diverse personnel tomorrow if residency were adjusted to being a preference instead of mandatory. We also must treat our crisis intervention services that we provide for our 911 personnel with equal treatment and funding as that for police, fire, and EMS. These services provided are currently self-funded by team members. Since 2020, the pandemic and extraordinary amount of work hours have caused many of our 911 personnel currently fighting the daily battle of recovery to relapse, as well as some making the ultimate final choice, suicide. Our dispatcher of the year and civilian of the year in 2015, who helped save Officer Moynihan's life after he was shot in the face, took her own life last month. And we also have members of the division who have attempted suicide recently. So this isn't strictly a sworn side issue. We're seeing a cumulative toll taking place here. It is imperative going forward that we make crisis intervention a priority, as changes in the technology, such as text to video now, which the call taker will now be a captive audience to a traumatic situation where they'll be the first-hand witness. And then you're going to kick in the mechanisms of court overtime, which are going to go through the roof with that, we're going to definitely need more personnel for that. We also must discuss the adjustment of the retirement reclassification of these 911 first responders. It will greatly help with the retention and recruitment within the division. How does moving retirement to a lower age help with this issue? It works in a few ways. First, it makes the job more desirable to new candidates. Knowing they won't have to work 40 years absorbing years of cumulative trauma is much more palatable than the current structure. Also, it will keep people in their jobs longer. How does that work? We are currently seeing personnel with 10 to 25 years of experience leaving their jobs. They simply do not see the light at the end of the retirement tunnel, being a realistic goal given the toll of the job that they've already experienced. These 64 to 90-hour work weeks are just simply tearing the tread off of the tires right now. We at Local 888 believe that Boston residents should receive preference for the 911 jobs, but leaving the positions vacant and continuing to strain an already burnt out workforce, which is on the precipice of getting worse before it gets better, is putting the safety and lives of the citizens of Boston directly in harm's way. If we stay on the current trajectory, the 35,000 missed calls will be a baseline that will only increase. We need to get up to 2023 standards while also looking down the road for the impending population increase, and we need to act now. The safety of the public depends on it. I'd like to thank the members of the committee for your time today.
Thank you, Anthony, for your testimony. I think 60 to 90 hours a week sums it up. It's untenable.